Different folks, you would agree with me this morning. You're welcome to Immaculate Television, ITVS, and this is Newspaper Review, where we get to see how much of stories we can use, make sense of some of the trending stories that are not already making sense. And that's what we try to do on this edition of the program. You're welcome once again. And today we'll be checking into the dailies to see how much of stories we can take. The Punch newspaper is right with me, The Guardian, as well as the Nigerian Tribune on this day, February 9th, 2024. And of course, many things are developing, many stories breaking, many stories developing. As we know, it was yesterday, there were many events that unfolded, and many of them, some tragic, some comical. But yes, we'll get to see how much of that we can see this morning. Right on the front page of the Punch newspaper, we have notify customers before debt recovery moves, and the CBN is telling banks to do that. Also, CBN is stopping banks from referencing unaudited accounts in adverts. All of that you can check on the Punch newspaper this morning. Police kill suspected kidnappers, gun runners recover weapons, generator fumes kill 2 Kogi police students. Health education can end female genital mutilation. Of course, about just this week we had that particular story where people were clamoring for to stop that gender mutilation. Of course, female genital mutilation, FGM is what they call it, and it seems like the right way to go now, because if you consider the intricacies and the complications coming from that, for an average female who is mutilated in Nigeria, it's nothing to write home about, and you know it's not a good one. Away from that as well now, 14-day strike notice, federal government labor differ on aborted peace deal. This story is right on the front page also of the Punch newspaper today, February 9, 2024. And more into that story would be that the Punch writes that the federal government on Thursday, yesterday, disagreed with the organized labor on its threat to declare a nationwide strike in the next 14 days over the alleged failure of the government to implement the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, reached with the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress in October 2023. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, in an interview with newsmen, told them that he asked the unions to exercise restraint and allow the government to address their grievances. He continued to say that Idris declined to comment on whether the government would seek a court injunction or stop the strike. And after the removal of the fuel subsidy by President Bola Tinubu, you would remember, in May 29, 2023, the labor unions reached a 16-point agreement with the federal government on measures to cushion the pains of subsidy removal on workers. Among other things, the government agreed to pay 35,000 naira to all federal workers beginning from last September, pending when a national minimum wage is expected to have been signed into law. In all of these developments is what we are seeing, and the resolution provides that the wage award would be paid to the federal workers for 6 months, while states were encouraged to extend the same benefit to their workers. The federal government also pledged to provide 100 CNG buses nationwide to ease the high transportation costs in the country. The unions also threatened to declare a nationwide strike on October 3, but the move was suspended on the condition that the wage award, cash transfer, and some other resolutions must be implemented within 30 days, effective from the day the MOU was signed, and that was the agreement. However, the NLC and TUC, in a joint statement on Thursday yesterday, accused the government of failing to fulfill its promise 5 months after the MOU was inked, actually. And then if you would want to see more of that story, you see that the Labour Party are now faulting the government, as said in a statement signed by the leaders of the two Labour unions, Joe Ajaero and Festus Osifo. The organized Labour expressed sadness that despite the passage of time, the majority of the crucial agreement remain unmet or negligibly addressed, indicating a blatant disregard for the principles of good faith, welfare and right of Nigerian workers and Nigerians. The organized labor also said it was given the federal government 14 days from February 9th to February 14th, 2024 to fulfill its part of the MOU with the unions. And of course, the labor union said that the agreement reached with the federal government focused on addressing the massive suffering and the general hard and hardship situation in the country, socioeconomic consequences of the ill-conceived and ill-executed IMF to World Bank induced hike in the price of PMS, popularly known as petrol, and the devaluation of the naira. Now, again, the question will be, who is particularly responsible for the devaluation of naira? And my own opinion, I beg to differ on many grounds, especially when it comes to this discourse. I know for a fact that it's not just the government that is to blame. Of course, many of the faults will still go back to the government because, as John C. Maxwell once said, that everything rises and falls on leadership. We have to take responsibility as a leader. So whoever is at the helm of affairs must take it upon himself or herself to say, yes, I am responsible for this. But again, one of the things we can do, right, I feel, and just recently was in the news when Angola was going to play Nigeria, that many well-wishers from that country decided to give the players iPhone 15 for only God knows why. Anyway, that's not even my country. But yes, what we're trying to say is once we decide to do these kind of things, it does not help the local market. It does not help the local currency in any country. Why can't we have people, take for instance, if that particular money is spread over to a company that produces or that couples phones in Angola, that would generate income for the country, and the money is going to go into circulation within the country. But what we have is many African countries just believe one of the great ways to achieve or to express your success, as it were, is to start buying things from overseas, and it doesn't help the naira. I know for a fact it does not help the naira. When we do not have, we you know, they call Nigeria a consumption country, so to say. We consume much more than we produce. More often than not, that's very correct, because we love, exactly. If you see a new phone, if there's an iPhone 16 tomorrow, you will see that the first few persons that would try to get that phone will be Nigerians, and this is a sorry case. I remember also when they are trying to budget money for our ministers as well, they were trying to get bulletproof cars that were made overseas. That's a problem. Imagine how much of millions of naira that would be, and you're sending it back to another country in dollars. It's not the best we can do. Why can't we prioritize local content, local goods, local product, local services? Why can't we have it local at this end? Because already we are in the debt or crisis, and we seem not to be moving ahead out of that particular situation that we have found ourselves. Of course, let's talk a bit about the police and the suspected kidnappers, gun runners. There's a story on the Punch newspaper this morning. It reads that the police kill suspected kidnappers, gun runners recover weapons, also on the Punch newspaper. And the story more into that would mean that a set of kidnappers and gun runners responsible for terrorizing different states have been neutralized by officers of the Nigeria Police Force, and that was on Thursday, yesterday. It seems like a good development. The Force Public Relations Officer, ACP Olumuyiwa Adejobi, disclosed this in a statement on Friday, which is today. And the statement reads, the FIDIRT of the Nigeria Police Force has recorded yet another feat in the ongoing fight against crime and criminality in the country as part of the sustained effort to cleanse the system of criminals, most especially kidnappers. In the early hours of February 8th, that was yesterday, 2024, some notorious kidnappers and gun runners who have been terrorizing Abuja, Kaduna, Kogi, and Nasarawa states were neutralized by IRT operatives at their hideouts around Gitata, along Kefi, Gidan, Wire Road, Nasarawa State. And similarly, 4 AK-47 rifles, weapons, and a bag of ammunition were recovered. Seems like a good one. The statement added that the NPF will continue to employ all necessary measures to rid communities of criminal elements and maintain peace and order across the nation. We hope that is true. And the Punch reported in January that operatives of the Special Intervention Squad, FCT, Federal Capital Territory Police Command, neutralized 3 notorious bandits in the forest within Buhari area of Abuja. And same month, a kidnapped kingpin identified as January, who was said to have masterminded several kidnappings within Kaduna State and Abuja, alongside some of his foot soldiers were killed during operations conducted by the air component of Operation Weary in Kaduna State. And of course, a story to also check. You want to get more on that story, check the Punch newspaper this morning. There's so many stories you can use. Some of them are not so good, but of course you take it with good faith, hoping that things will become better. Also, Generator Films killed two Kogi police students, also a story you would like to check. Another story catching and piquing my interest this morning is FERMA repairs roads, links stranded Niger Delta communities. Of course, that's a story to also talk about. Now, coming down to your state, there's a particular story about farmers in your state. Or your farmers protest incessant attacks on farmlands, insecurity, and insecurity yet again. That's what we've been noticing and witnessing in this country as we speak. So, in your state now, a group of farmers in Oriire local government area of your state Thursday yesterday staged a peaceful protest and begged both the state government and the Somo of Ogbomoso land or by Gandhi Olaoye to come to their aid over incessant attacks on their farms by alleged herders. It seems like when we kill it, it rises again, more like a zombie kind of situation for these people. Because when we try to, bring peace and order into some systems, some societies, particularly farm areas, and we see that another one is uprising, it seems like a bad thing that we should not go back and forth. Enough of this. The farmers who staged the protest at the palace of the Somu of Ogbomoso appealed to the traditional ruler and other stakeholders to save them from the attacks on their farms. The protesters who spoke through Aremu Ogundare explained that the protesters came from 3 different villages in a local government area, namely Kedo Arigbeyo, Kedo Salami, and Mosumaje. Ogundare, who doubled as the head of Kedo Arigbeyo, lamented that they had come to the palace to solicit the assistance of the government and monarch because the alleged herdsmen persisted in their destructive activities. Also, more into that story, you would like to get your hand upon a Punch newspaper this morning. Many of these stories to go around again. Notify customers before debt recoveries. CBN is telling banks as well on the front page of the Punch newspaper. CBN stopped bank from referencing audited accounting adverts. Also, many of these stories are right on the Punch newspaper for today. Moving slightly away from the Punch newspaper now to the Nigerian Tribune. Very quickly, what we see right on the front page is we no longer trust unions. Nigerians react to Labour 14-day strike ultimatum. That's another development of the first story I read to you, how that the labor unions are also saying, yes, we would embark on a 14-day strike again. But another development is reporting that we are no longer trusting the unions, and that's coming from Nigerians who are saying, nah, we can't continue like this. You've promised us a lot of times and you failed us. It seems like it's still a basket case for us. Once we try to talk to you, the other time it's going to be another situation. And all of this you can also check on Nigerian Tribune newspaper. But yes, let's get a bit into that story. Nigerians have reacted to the National Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress issuance of a 14-day strike ultimatum given to the federal government of Nigeria, saying they no longer trust the effectiveness of the union. This is in response to the declaration of a 14-day strike to the federal government for failing to implement the 16-point agreement reached in October 2023. You would recall that this action by the NLC and TUC, Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress in Nigeria, is an outcome of the meeting held in Abuja, where the duo stated that they signed. Their president, Comrade Ajaero, and Comrade Festus Odidi said the non-implementation of the agreement has only cost Nigeria more pain and suffering. So they're reacting to this declaration. Nigerians seem to have lost hope in this union and have taken to social media to express their disappointment. Of course, you would understand that this is quite expected at this point. We've seen times when we would see that the TUC is having a different opinion. They are having different priorities, as it were. Some would say, give us this, and TUC maybe would say, give us that. So it seems like they are not in tandem. They do not work together, and that seems to create a kind of like a chasm between them, which is not good for the country as we know it. And away from that now as well, many stories right on the front page of Nigerian Tribune this morning, but we'll only take a few that we can for want of time, and we'll see how well we can rise from there. Also, another story coming from the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning is about the ECOWAS exit. Of course, security economic impact on Nigeria. So yes, this is trying to put some shed some light on this particular story of the ECOWAS exit of some nations, and is saying that the security economic impact that can happen to Nigeria as a result of this. Enforced executive order on patronage of Nigerian-made products. Reps tell federal government. I think exactly what I've rightly mentioned in this show today. We need to prioritize local-made products, local-made services. We need that as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'm afraid we will not move forward away from that as well. Now, economic hardship, blame Buhari, not Tinubu. Arewa Group tells critics. The blame game is not even a thing I want to even think of. I know many Nigerians are not even expecting this. It's like a sorry case if you are saying that. It's a no-brainer that, of course, the past administration failed. And if you are now appropriating the blames on them, it means you do not even have a strategy for you to become the head of this country. You do not have a strategy to make things right. Of course, if you see that something is not working when you want to, and that's the reason why you said you wanted to come in the first place. You wanted to better things, right? So if you have come to do that, then do it well. Instead of saying, appointing blames, sharing blames like you are sharing national cake and all of that, saying, okay, it belongs to this. And the same question is still that the last administration was an APC body. The current administration is an APC party. So what are we saying? If you are blaming your party for what your party did, I'm afraid that's not the best way to go. Do you have solutions for people? Can you manage this country and make it well? That's the question for you. And I'm afraid we just keep going back and forth on these issues. Away from that now, let's move on to the Guardian newspaper and see what the Guardian would write this morning. Labour intensifies pressure, gives federal government 14 days to address hardship. And we have rightly talked about that briefly. And of course, you also know there's a particular story from the sports segment. Nwabali breaks Nigeria's goalkeeping records. Troops neutralize 4 insurgents, rescue 11 kidnapped victims in Kaduna. Also in the news, we have NECA sees alcoholic sachet ban as economic sabotage. Federal government boost Owerri. Also Abeokuta, all of that story. But let's see a bit of that story, talking about the NECA situation, about alcoholic sachet ban, describing it as an economic sabotage. We know persons have, even in Lagos, there was a protest about that they should not ban what we call in Yoruba kwelebe. In this part of my community, we say it's kwelebe, so you should not ban kwelebe. That's what some people are clamoring for. And just when we broke the news recently too, I saw the reactions of many people saying, no, you can't do that. You just don't want to do that. Of course, now into that story would mean that the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, NECA, has described the ban of alcoholic drinks in sachet and PET bottles by the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, that's NAFDAC, as an act of economic sabotage and an attempt to pull businesses operating in the sector into an economic abyss. All of that. The Director General of NECA, Adewale Smart Oyemide in Lagos, yesterday said the ban on the production and sale of the product was not only ill-advised but also ill-timed, given the current economic situation, rate of employment, inability of Nigeria Customs and NTS to effectively police the borders, and the likely loss of investment. Also, he said this should not occur at the time when all economic fundamentals against businesses with consequence for job creation and enterprise sustainability. According to him, the ban will further drag businesses onto the precipice and escalate the current rate of unemployment in the country. The NECA chief stressed also that in the country where there are many unmanned entry points, the move will promote smuggling, alleging that some unscrupulous elements would leverage the ban to flood the market with adulterated products. While reiterating the association's opposition to alleged ill-advised NAFDAC action, Oyemide reiterated the importance of the beverage and alcoholic industry as a major provider of employment and a significant contribution contributor to government tax revenue. And while stating the importance of controlling the abuse of alcoholic drugs in the country, he said it was of greater importance to ensure business sustainability, employment creation, and poverty reduction among households in the country. You want to get more on that story, check the Guardian newspaper for that, especially people who are picked interest in that particular story. I know it's quite a story many persons would love to see. Yes, away from that, let's see what we have on the sports segment, a bit of stories into the AFCON situation. Very importantly, we know Nigeria has qualified for the next stage, which of course is a delight of many Nigerians. But yes, we are also trying to tell people to be calm, because we have from reports, according to what we had in reports, we had about 3 or 4 persons who lost their lives to that match. People who became anxious and probably maybe heart condition, or maybe a pressure in their heart or something, they died as a result of the match, the penalty shootout between Nigeria and South Africa. And all of that is what we are trying to tell Nigerians to be calm, especially on Sunday when the finals will be going down with the host nation, Ivory Coast. It promises to be an exciting one. I'm so sure many Nigerians are going to come out en masse to watch that match. AFCON, why Super Eagles will beat Ivory Coast? That's coming from Peter side. Also, Equatorial Guinea's Ensure Lukman, other AFCON top scorers, applauded for Mwabali after shootout heroics. Tinubu will be other impressive Super Eagles. All of that story as well. Nigeria beat South Africa on penalties, reach 8 AFCON final. We've broken so many records, especially with our goalkeeper Stanley Nwabali, who has done well. My other brother, Saka Solanke, others Lord Super Eagles. Seems like a good one. Of course, this story is reporting on the front on the Punch newspaper at this point that there is no love lost between several players of Nigerian descent and the country, as many of them took to the social media to applaud the Super Eagles of Nigeria following their win against the Bafana Bafana of South Africa in the semi-finals of the ongoing African Cup of Nations in Ivory Coast. As the whole nation was thrown into massive jubilation on Wednesday night, several players with Nigerian roots also took part in the celebration, with many of them posting videos and congratulatory messages applauding the Super Eagles for reaching the AFCON final. While it is a known fact that Bukayo Saka of Arsenal, I must say that so loud, Dominic Solanke, Fikayo Tomori and Tammy Abraham have all committed their international allegiance to England, the quartet couldn't hide their emotions seeing Nigeria beat South Africa on Wednesday. They were joined in the euphoria by Manchester City's Manuel Akanji, who plays for the Switzerland national team on loan, Bayern Munich striker Joshua Zexzi, who has represented the Netherlands at all youth level alongside England under 23 international Noni Madueke of Chelsea. Yes, many of them are saying, yeah, congratulations, go Eagles, let's do it again. And on that note, we'll do it again shortly next week. Or stay with us. We have so many of the programs yet to come today, and it's been a wonderful time with you. And on behalf of the entire production crew, we say thank you for joining us on Newspaper Review Edition today, February 9, 2024, Immaculate Television. And we want you to know that you can stream our programs live on different multiple platforms, digital platforms like we call them, for Android users. Net Niger TV is where to find us, and for iPhone users, Limex World is where you can find us as well. Thank you so very much for joining. We have subsequent programs coming your way, but just in a moment. Stay with us. Don't go nowhere.